Hello, working class hustlers of America and all across the globe. My name is Horace, also known as La Machine. This is What to Sell on Amazon, where we talk all things selling on Amazon using the arbitrage business model. And as the title suggests, we have some great tips for you, particularly if you are a newbie, if you're just starting out. We have a wonderful guest that wants to help you get the best out of this Q4. For those of you who are not aware, Q4 is the busiest season of the retail business. It's huge. We're going to talk about some special things that you're going to want to pay attention to make sure you get the most out of that. And we're going to jump right in. So our guest today is the lovely Miss Karen. Wave to the working class hustlers of the world. Karen, you may know her. If not, then you need to be joining us every weekend when we go live. She is one of our working class hustler panelists. She's very knowledgeable. She's worth her weight in gold. So let's jump right in. And one of the first things, I'm sort of just looking over some of our notes so that we don't miss anything.
All right.
You'll notice we need to be clear about this, hustlers. We're in Q4. As it stands right now, today is October the 10th. So when we talk about Q4 sales, we're talking about merchant fulfilled. That means you're going to ship these products yourself. You're not going to do what's typically talked about in this world, which would be FBA, where you send the items into the warehouse and let Amazon do all of that. That would be great. But Karen, we might be a little bit behind the power curve for FBA. What would you say to that?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure all of us who are able to are trying to do FBA shipments like crazy, but we're going to get to a point for sure where it's too risky to send items into FBA because you don't know if they're going to get checked in time. So therefore, if you still want to really be in the game, you're going to do some merchant fulfilled items as well.
Very good. Thank you so much. So now that we have that sort of out of the way, now we're going to get into the meat. We really want you to get excited. If you've never had a Q4, or if you've never really taken Q4 seriously, you have got to imagine for yourself your sales literally quadrupling. That is not unheard of. That is not unheard of, guys. Study, and you'll notice that your retail stores, physical brick and mortar stores, make the bulk of their sales during the holiday season. That's going to include everything from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas. And so a lot of the points that we're going to bring out to you are based upon that fact. Your sales are going to increase. And the reason why is because shoppers' buying behaviors really change. They buy during this season like no other time of the year. And with those sales quadrupling, one of the things we're going to touch on is the amount of supplies that you're going to need. Karen, did you have anything to add about that?
Well, I guess I should tell a little story. Okay. Last year, this time was my first Q4. I had not experienced Q4. I started selling at Amazon about August and September, and my sales I had very few sales up, until Q4. Okay. But I tell you what, November 27th hit, and then my sales blew up. And within a period of 3 days, I sold about $11,000 worth of a particular item. Wow. Merchant fulfilled. I had no idea that was within the realm of possibility, and I was not ready. Okay. Did it, but I'm going to be prepared this year.
Okay.
So it could happen to anybody. Your sales could just, as you say, quadruple. They could just blow up out of nowhere. So you want to be ready.
So when you talk about that, when you give that example, how are you going to be ready? Can you give us an example? Are you going to have more supplies on hand? What are you going to do differently now that you have the experience?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of content out there talking about, make sure you have extra supplies, stock up on particularly the free supplies from USPS, and UPS has free supplies. Whatever amount you think that you might need, get more than that because you just don't know. So that is, of course, the number one thing to be prepared. And I guess anticipation is really the name of the game in terms of preparedness, anticipating what could happen. My sales could blow up, so that therefore I'm going to need more supplies. I'm going to need backup systems. I mean, what if I lose my credit card, or what if they put a hold on my account and they think it's fraudulent activity? Can I still continue to source as I need to make sure I have stock to merchant fulfilled? So there's just a lot of things that we need to anticipate.
Absolutely, because you got a small window. Q4 is gone before you know it. You cannot afford to lose momentum. This is already a momentum-based business, because once you reach something that holds you up, the time you're being held up and the time keeps going. You can never catch it. You can never make that up. So anticipation is key. When it comes to supplies, better to have more. You're going to eventually need them. So
better to have more, and better to have backup systems for all of the items, that not just supplies, but what would you, just at least to think through, what if your computer fails? Do you have an iPad, or can you use your phone? What if your printer fails? Is there another one that you can get access to quickly? Just to think about that ahead of time, because as you say, Horace, it's no time. Once the momentum starts, you need to be able to keep rolling no matter what.
Excellent. And again, we talked about the hustlers out there being cognizant or aware of the fact that their sales could triple, quadruple, and
that's right,
beyond. Another thing, let's talk a little bit about what changes. Remember, I mentioned shoppers, the way they decide on making a purchase typically deals with price. How would prices really change? Because we're selling more products. Are we selling more at the same price during Q4? What can you tell us about pricing during Q4? Because the hustlers need to know how to price their items during that time.
Well, I think you always say, Horace, don't sell yourself short, particularly during Q4. Prices can be higher. There's at certain points, people aren't looking for deals. They're just looking to get things done, to get them ordered. That said, an area of pricing has to do, particularly with merchant fulfilled items, is shipping. And so now, before we get into the real thick of it, it's a good time to check your shipping templates to make sure that you got enough shipping costs built in to your templates, and when you're pricing your items, that you've got enough built in to use your preferred method of shipping, because that is really going to be key, since both UPS and USPS, I believe, USPS have increased their prices. And so we need to be ready for that so that we don't undercut ourselves.
Right. But, when we talk about not selling yourself short, understand prices can really, really increase. This is what's so great. This is where your profit potential is so much different than normal. A lot of times you get into price wars during the regular season, whereas your biggest issue in Q4 is running out of stock.
Exactly.
For those who've made it this far, I'm going to tell you right now, Karen was so gracious. She put together some special resources, and we're going to get into those a little bit later. I just wanted to kind of tease you a bit. You need to hang out, because we got some stuff to make sure you're going to be rewarded for your time and your attention. So we talked about not selling yourself short on price, particularly with beginners. A lot of times they're looking for inventory. Now, when we say beginner, this could be a person that has been selling for a year or two. And when we talk about where they're going to get inventory, they may actually have inventory that's been sitting around. Let's unpack that, because that's one of our tips about where to find inventory during this time.
Yes, that is a really good point. Of course, we always have our usual retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, but it really is a great time to source your home. Things like specialty books, old typewriters, puzzles. There are actually quite a few used items that do sell well on Amazon that you can merchant fulfill during Q4 that any other time they'd sit there. They just sit and no one would pay attention. But sometimes a particular old gaming system or a particular old game is nostalgic for people and they want to do a surprise gift. And so, yes, search around your home for things that you might be able to sell. Or if you have items that have you tried to sell on Amazon all year and they're just kind of, if you couldn't sell them or you thought you couldn't sell them, now's the time to double check to see if you can get auto ungated, or if there are things that maybe you're not quite ready to create listings, and so you only list things on Amazon that already have listings. Maybe when you first checked, there was no listing, so you thought, oh gosh, I just have to hold on to this. Now's a good time to check back again, because there could be a listing for it now, and you might be able to sell items that you have just been holding on to.
Thank you so much for that information. Hustlers, you really got to take this to heart, because if you've been doing this business for any length of time, you've got inventory that's sitting around that you're not dealing with it, because this is a business that keeps you in front, right? And you're not looking back. Before you know it, you've got inventory that's been sitting around, literally collecting dust. You said you'd get to it, you never did. Now is the time. This is a great point. Look at the inventory that's been sitting around in your home. Check the listings. Maybe it's time to get back into it. What are we doing with this inventory that we thought we could sell, and then when we go to actually send it in, the system says, oh, you can't sell it. What are we doing with that? A lot of times we relegate it to the side because we got other stuff to deal with. So this is a great time to clean out.
Now's time. Go back through it and just double check. I think on other platforms we might call that. I still do sell on eBay, and we call it what we call the dead pile, the things that you just have stopped paying attention to, because we like to pay attention to the new item, the new girl in town, but don't check those old ones.
Right. Another thing I know you wanted to talk about was when you get into Q4, remember, we started out by saying, imagine your sales quadrupled. Well, guess what else could quadruple with sales? Problems can quadruple now. If you're going to increase the sales, the number of things that could go wrong it just has to happen. So when you talk about being able to deal with customer issues, maybe they're saying they didn't get their products. Is there a system we could kind of think about in terms of tracking or anything like that's more important even, during Q4?
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier I mentioned how in 3 days, I sold $11,000 worth of products. That actually happened. We got them all shipped out. But within a week, I started getting messages from customers. Oh, I didn't get my product. It arrived broken. All kinds of issues were coming up. I was getting messages, and it was kind of miserable. But I ended up on the fly kind of creating just a spreadsheet for myself to keep track of what the issues were, because in many cases, delivery was slow, and I was really trying to get customers to just give us a couple more days. And I started tracking their orders too, so that I could give them updates so that they wouldn't ask for a refund. They were ready to ask for their money back. And I was saying, well, it's about 20 miles from you now, so it should come within the next day or two. But how can you keep up with that? So I just created a little spreadsheet, and this year I'll be ready with that so that I can keep track of, what their names are, what their tracking IDs are, what their order IDs are. In the case of when something gets broken, merchant fulfilled, then of course you either have to refund them or send them another item. So keep track of that. But then you also need to file a claim with the USPS, for instance, because the package was insured. So this is a good time if you're going to be well prepared to prepare for things, to prepare for what happens in life. Things don't always go smoothly.
Talk about just a little bit, because we're going to show hustlers, we're going to get to your special items that Karen prepared for you. Talk just a little bit about trying to keep up with these customers and their issues during Q4. Have you ever tried to do that in your head? What was the outcome?
That's what led to the spreadsheet. I mean, halfway through, I realized, it was making my holiday season kind of miserable, because with each new one that came up, then I had to go back in and try to figure out, well, what did I say? And what did I do? What should I do? And so just being extra organized is in every way is helpful when you're talking high volumes. During normal, the other 3 quarters, you can manage. You don't have that many issues. But so the tools, there's a tool that I created, but it can be individualized for anyone the way they want to. But the big idea is just be ready for it.
I'm glad you brought this up, though. This is so important for the hustlers, because we forget, just because you're selling on Amazon and your sales have quadrupled, and now you have quadruple the amount of customer service involved, you still got your own holiday season that you want to be able to enjoy. Imagine you got your own dinners, parties, gifts to buy. There's a lot that's already stressing you out. And so I understand where you're coming from with this. You keep saying it made your holiday season miserable. You forget, it's not just about Amazon, the customers. You have your season that you'd like to be able to enjoy as well. That is significant, and I'm glad you brought that up. I want to see if I can share my screen.
Well, while you're doing that, I would also say it's a good time now to think about whether you're going to have a specific cutoff date for Christmas delivery.
Aha. Okay.
Because when people order from Amazon, they still are hanging on to the expectation, the old expectation that they're going to get it, within a couple of days or a few days. And then the pressure becomes intense at holiday time. So yes, you're getting a lot of volume, but there's pressure to get those items to your customers when you don't have full control over that. Mm-hmm. You're relying on, the postal system or whatever delivery method you've chosen. So something that I didn't do last year that I'll definitely be doing this year is I'm going to set a date and I'm going to cut off sales because I know the chances are fairly high that if people get their items 3 days after Christmas and they were Christmas gifts, they're just coming back to me anyway. So I'm going to do a cutoff.
Excellent. That's one of the points, hustlers. Set a cutoff date. And this is such a wonderful interview, Karen. This is things that we need to consider, because you got to understand, you're going to be tempted to want to go beyond the cutoff date because in your mind at that moment, that's a sale. Okay. Right. But you got to be able to think. Karen is saying we got to be able to think further than that. What's going to happen? What's the likelihood that the gift is going to arrive after Christmas? Do people want it then? No. So
that means going to return. They're going to want to do a return. So then you're going to be out of shipping.
Mm-hmm.
That amount for the product is going to be deducted. You're going to have to deal with processing the return. It's just not worth it, even though it's tempting. I haven't figured out my exact date, because when those sales are coming in, I want to get every last one of them. But the reality is, it's not smart to do that.
I got you. Would you never know, because we're not, with the way the service has been through all of the carriers, it gets worse it's been getting worse.
It's been getting worse.
What would you, because a lot of the hustlers are going to say, they're going to want to know, okay, Karen, when should my cutoff date be? That's going to be a decision that they have to make. But if you had to give a guideline, what would you say? Hey, cut off and give at least another 2 weeks for the item to arrive? Or
I would say under my cutoff date is probably going to be before December the 15th.
Wow.
It's going to be before December 15th.
So that would give about 2 weeks roughly.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Now, there may be a way, and this is something we should explore and get back with folks about it. But I mean, there might be a way to communicate to customers that you don't guarantee delivery. You never can really fully guarantee delivery, but that you would anticipate delivery after the holidays. And I think the way that you would do that, now that I'm thinking about it, is you can change your handling time. So probably around December 15th, if not before, maybe even the 9th, I'll go in and I'll change my handling time so that it makes clear that the item would not be expected to arrive before Christmas. That way, I'll still have sales coming in, but they'll know that they're not going to arrive before Christmas.
Right. And people are buying things that are not for the holidays, even though it's during the holiday season. So
that's right. So you don't want to cut off you don't want to just shut down your store and stop selling.
Right.
But you want to be able to just make it clear. So typically, for merchant fulfilled items, and everyone makes different decisions about this, but I have 1 day handling on my merchant fulfilled items. On the 15th, my handling time is going to go to about 5 days, just to make sure that people know that if Christmas is the date that they're looking for, they're going to get their items later than that.
Great. Before we show, I'm going to attempt to show them their nice gifts from you. But before we do that, I kind of want to unpack this whole merchant fulfill idea a little bit more. This is very, very important, hustlers. So please pay attention. If you're new, most likely one of the deciding factors that kind of got you into this was this idea that you could do FBA and let Amazon do everything for you. That's a wonderful concept and it does work. But here's what you need to understand. In the context of this conversation, you're already out of it. If you haven't gotten that inventory, if it's not already in the warehouse,
right.
Okay, where at this point it's being transferred because they decide to move it around their system to better serve their customers. If all you want to do is FBA, you're out of it at this point, at this date right now. What Karen is doing is giving you gifts that you can actually make more money because you can do both. So if you have not been even considering merchant fulfilled, meaning you're going to ship yourself, you owe it to your business to consider it. Yes, you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to do the picking, the packing, the shipping. But understand, you just cut off a good portion of your selling potential if all you're doing is FBA. So we started this segment by saying, hey, this is applying to merchant fulfilled. We need to kind of let the hustlers know, Karen, why would you want to do merchant fulfilled? And this is obvious. I just told you, you're going to miss at this point. You've already missed the cutoff. Everything that we're talking about doesn't even apply to you. did you want to say a little bit about that before we show your gifts?
Well, I would just say, I mean, there's a number of benefits to doing merchant fulfilled. I mean, if I don't know if anybody's had the experience or if it's unique to me that I look at a product that I'm going to sell on Amazon and the price is a really good price. There's a lot of meat on the bones, but by the time it gets to FBA, somehow the price has tanked or significantly lower. So merchant fulfilling now allows you to capitalize, to strike when it's hot. If it's selling at a good price right now, you got it in hand, you can get it out the door and you can get that price. So for me, that's one of the greatest benefits of merchant fulfills. The other benefit is if you happen to sell on multiple platforms, hey, you have your merchandise in hand. So whoever comes through first, you can ship it out to them, so long as you make sure you track and don't double sell your inventory. So there's really lots of benefits. What are you thinking about primarily, Horace? Were you thinking about a benefit?
Yes, but I'm glad you mentioned having the inventory if you sell across multiple platforms is key, because a lot of people will say, well, if it's in the Amazon warehouse, I can still have Amazon do what they call multi-platform shipping, or I forget what they call it, but they will ship it to a customer, but it's going to be in their time frame. And
right.
You can get into trouble with that. What I would like to say is, in my personal experience, and again, this is for our newbies. A lot of newbies are led to believe that customers prefer when they see the little Prime. I've found out that's not always the case, and everybody isn't using Amazon Prime. There are a lot, and that number continues to increase, but not necessarily. A lot of times there's factors that we may never understand. But the point is this: just because you see a bunch of FBAs on an item and you think that yours is going to sit as a derelict merchant fulfilled, that's just not the case. And you would be surprised. I can't understand why some of my merchant fulfilled sell when there's a whole bunch of FBAs out there. And what I have found is that my business is much more stable, believe it or not. And some of the frustration that comes with FBA shipments being seemingly lost,
stranded inventory,
that seems to be accounted for, but for some reason not showing on the platform. I mean, there's just all sorts of things. FBA is great, but it comes with its own set of problems. I do a mixture of both, and I try to encourage the newbies to consider.
And merchant fulfilled items get the buy box a lot more often than we would assume. I think prior to the pandemic, having FBA items was a great advantage. But it still there may be some advantage, but I'm telling you, I'm seeing a lot of merchant fulfilled items in the buy box, if that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, it used to be, like you said, before the pandemic, FBA was a clear winner. That's not so clear. Those lines have been blurred. So yeah, let's see if I can share my screen.
Let's
guys.
see. Let's see.
So I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, so here's just a list. We've talked through some items, but this is just a list of things to consider, so that after this broadcast, if people want to just review, here are our thoughts. So if you were taking notes, you can stop taking notes, because we have it written down here.
This is great. This is basically covering 3 categories when it comes to being prepared, as far as inventory, shipping, and also preparing for Murphy's Law. And then Karen mentioned about having a way to track things. So here's what she put together, and the link to these resources will be down in the description. You may have to follow a link to be able to get to them. It just depends on how we put it together. For example, we have a cheat sheet, so we may have it where you can get those when you sign up for the cheat sheet, not only will you get the cheat sheet, but you'll get these as well, these resources. I think that's the way we're going to do it for those who would like to invest. So yeah, that's that. That is amazing. So on that note, we'll take any parting shots from the lovely Miss Karen. She was so gracious. If there's anything, any words of encouragement or anything you want to give to the newbies as we go into this Q4.
Well, I just say Q4 is great. You haven't lived as an Amazon seller until you've been through Q4. So
yes.
I know it's going to be great for everyone out there, and it's pretty exciting. One little tip I do want to highlight that I didn't highlight, that is, if you were a seller last Q4, then look back at what were your top sellers and get ready for them to sell hot again this year. So my item that I sold $11,000 worth of, I've already boxed those items. I know what kind of box they go into. They are in their boxes. And so when 60 orders come in a day, I've got a head start. So get a head start on everything you can and go to it.
All right, guys. So with that, make sure you take advantage of all the resources that you're going to find down in the product description. That's going to include being able to sign up to get these resources that Karen put together for you. Also, you'll have links to other resources like we mentioned, the cheat sheet, the insiders. We got the lightning course. We've got the 7 steps to helping you learn how to evaluate, because in the first place, you have to be knowledgeable in how to pick a product. So there's just so much available to you. If you have any questions, if we did not cover something that you had a question on, please leave a comment. If you have any tips, become a part of the Working Class Hustler family. Not only do we encourage you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so that you can be made aware of when we come out with this type of valuable content, we also want you to become a working class hustler by being actively involved. We want your engagement. Some of you have experience. Guess what? Share that. We need you. There are a lot of people that are going to come across this channel, and your knowledge is going to help them immensely in ways that you would never even know. But that's what it means to be a working class hustler. And we're counting on you. So if you have any experience, if you have anything that you'd like to share that you know would be a benefit to one of the new working class hustlers, please do the world a favor and let us know. Some of us, even the panelists, we get, good nuggets from you guys because everybody's a teacher. So we'll see you guys in the next video.